Hey everybody, it's Chris here. Hope everybody had a good 4th of July holiday for what it was. Been a little busy the last week, had some new endeavors going on. Just wanted to start off by just expressing my gratitude for Jessica for being a part of my last episode. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go back and listen. We touched on some really important topics, and I was just very humbled by her participation and the intelligence and sincerity that she brought in. And after one day, it was the second most downloaded episode that I've ever produced for the show. So I was pretty excited about that. I wanted to just jump on here and do a brief message about just some thoughts on mutual exclusivity and whataboutism, which is this phenomenon that I feel like we've seen a lot of since the presidency of Donald Trump started. Specifically in regards to the current climate with COVID, with stay-at-home orders, social distancing, wearing of masks. I hear a lot of angry pushback towards not being allowed to go do barbecues, not being allowed to participate in large gatherings, and not being allowed to go out without wearing a mask. And the pushback comes in the form of, what about the Black Lives Matter protesters? Why was that okay, but now this isn't okay? And I could answer this in a lot of ways. I've gotten into some debates with people already. I could start with, well, they're fighting for different things, right? One side is fighting for reform against police brutality. The other side is fighting against science and medical facts and deliberately putting themselves in positions to get other people sick. Whether you believe that's what it is or not, like whether you believe that wearing a mask is helpful or isn't, it's kind of irrelevant to me. I'm just stating the facts. So that's one part of it, right? That you're comparing apples to oranges. And then the other part of it is, I don't care. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people now with a mandated order to socially distance and wear masks when you're out in public. I'm talking about those people who are choosing, in the face of medical facts and just the fact that cases have more than doubled in the last 2 weeks in these hot spots where restrictions aren't being imposed or at least enforced. That's what I'm talking about. We're talking about people who are willfully defying the facts and thereby potentially making people sick. And I just see this so much. And again, I really started to notice it with the ascension of Donald Trump. We saw that during his campaign. It was always, what about her emails? What about Benghazi? What about when Obama sent drones overseas? It's a separate issue. We're talking about one thing at a time. It's just like saying Black Lives Matter. You don't need to say, what about all lives? We're talking about one thing. Let's stay on message. There's this idea of this all or nothing approach, and it's so frustrating because it just grossly inhibits the ability to have a dialogue, a meaningful, productive dialogue, when you can just turn around and say, oh, well, what about the Black Lives Matter protesters? Again, I can come at this a lot of ways. I wasn't the decision maker on whether those people could protest or not, just like I'm not the decision maker on people choosing to go to barbecues now. Yeah, I just I wish people would think about that a little bit more, about this all or nothing mutual exclusivity thing. And I think on a semi-related note, with the whole 10th man concept being where you question everything, right? You question the consensus. You question what is purported to be common knowledge, which is great. That's a good thing. You should do that. But you also have to recognize the truth when you see it, and learn how to dispel facts from memes and propaganda. That this is all what it's about. It scares me that we're at a time where you can choose what's factual, and you can operate based on that. There's this unwillingness to recognize facts, and it's holding us back. So it's frustrating, and it sometimes gives me a sense of hopelessness, because there's always going to be a segment of the population that feels that way. So, just we need to stay on message, and we need to tackle one thing at a time, and not decide that something isn't worth fixing because what about when these people did this? It's like with the masks themselves, right? Wearing a cloth mask, wearing gloves even, maybe socially distancing, staying 6 feet away, it's not necessarily 100% effective. And simply wearing the cloth mask is not as effective as wearing a hazmat suit. But this is a reason why people give for not wearing a mask. But it's better than nothing. It doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. It doesn't have to be no mask or hazmat suit. Maybe there's some reasonable middle ground. So it's just something to think about. Be a 10th man, question the consensus, as I always say, but be willing to accept facts as they come in, and you can always adjust your position as new facts come in. That's another part of this. There have been different standards released by the CDC as different information came in. That doesn't negate the validity of the new information that comes in just because things have changed. It's okay to change your mind based on reason. Anyway, thanks again for listening. I appreciate it. Again, hope you're all staying safe and healthy. And remember, don't be afraid to question the consensus.